Okay, so continuation, part 3, I guess. Sorry, it's not in linear fashion. It was a week-long experience that happened back in October of 2019, and my brain doesn't remember it in linear fashion. Some things can be, you know, on a timeline, but my brain just doesn't work like that. So these things are really random over like a series of videos, but all of these things happened within a week-long event, except for the Phoenix that I saw. That was the week after this. Basically, apocalypse week is what I'm labeling it, because at the time when it happened, that's what I thought it was, and that everybody was experiencing it, but that was not the case. So after we were like pulling up to this place. The cops had brought us to the hospital, but before we got to the hospital, I mentioned that the aliens were already there. They were sitting like in the hospital waiting. They were just waiting for me there. So they were like lined up. I could see them in the windows as we were driving up. So I knew that they were already there and waiting for me. So when I came in, we got taken to this one room, and then we were like separated. So they had us in 2 different beds with 2 different police officers, and of course, different nurses and stuff. I don't know if it was the same doctor, but so when I was in my room, my lips were really chapped, and I asked them for some chapstick. They have these like little sample tubes of Vaseline, and that's what they give you for like chapped lips at the hospital. So she gave me this little packet, and I put some on. I went into the bathroom. So the room that I was in had like the curtain, and then there was like a utility closet on the side, and then also a bathroom just happened to be there. So I went into the bathroom and then came back out, and then I couldn't find the Vaseline that I had just used, because like it was still really dry, and I needed to put on more Vaseline, but it was gone. So the nurse started looking around. She was like looking under the table, looking at a blanket, and she couldn't find it. She's like, oh, that's weird, and went and got another one. She had to go back and get another one because the one that she had just given me and I had just put on my lips and placed down onto the table had vanished. So she had to get me another one, even though the cop also was sitting there the entire time. So that was something strange that happened, that they both experienced as well. And then these things continued to happen to me, you know, many years later. But anyway, she didn't understand what happened. She just got me another one, and I put more on. I sat back, like I got up into the bed, and then I was talking to the cop, and I could see there's like this movement on the other side, shadows. Like I could see shadows of movement on the other side of where I was sitting, like the curtain. And it just looked like a giant dragon tail that kept kind of like moving around and swirling around, but it was like the shadow of what appeared to be at the time some kind of like dragon tail. So I'm looking down the hallway here, and there's aliens in my room the whole time. They're like in this utility closet. There's this like rectangle shaped door. It's like a window in the door. So in a hospital, they have like utility doors, and they have like the rectangle shapes that are cut out. It's just a fairly small lookout for the door. So they have like all of these aliens were like crammed into this one little rectangle space. Just looking at me. They were just trying to stare at me. I don't know what they were doing. They were just staring at me. And then I saw the fucking dragon. So I was looking down the hall, and then there was this red dragon. Yeah, so it was red, and it looked like the How to Train Your Dragon cartoon looking dragon, kind of like, but non-cartoon, right? But it looked like the shape of it, the way that the facial features were, looked just like that dragon in the cartoon, but it had red skin. There's red skin, and it wasn't very big. Like it was, I'd have to say definitely bigger than a dog, but not that big, right? So it was underneath this cabinet that are in the hospital. I don't know what to call them. It's like a hospital dressers. It's like a dresser in the hospital is filled with all of these medical supplies. So that was sitting in the hallway, and then there's like walk space where nurses are walking throughout the emergency room ward. So there's people walking by, and then you could see the dragon every single time, and it had the green eyes. So put that in there too. It had the fucking green eyes that I saw from the previous night that were in my window. Now suddenly those exact same eyes that are much like human eyes, except they're glowing green. Like they're glowing green, but with human pupil, which also really shocked me as well, because I was expecting some kind of slit eye, but that's not the case. It had eyes like us, except glowing green, and so those eyes suddenly were now on a red dragon that's like sitting underneath this medical dresser that's in the hallway in the emergency room department of the Swift Current, Saskatchewan fucking hospital. So I'm looking at this fucking dragon, and suddenly the aliens don't seem so wild, right? Like, the aliens were the least of my concerns in that moment. It was like they didn't really matter anymore, because they were not as freaky as what I was seeing in front of me. So there's this red dragon with the green glowing eyes, and every time people were walking past him, he was underneath this dresser thing, and every time people would walk past him, he kind of like deke out, like he would be like go to the side a little bit. So I thought it was really weird that his facial expressions also indicated that he definitely was a little bit confused whether other people could see him or not. So there was some confusion from these beings, whatever they were. I think they were also just like a little bit confused about what was happening also. Not as confused as me, but definitely there were moments where he's just deking out, and he wouldn't be doing that if he didn't think that things other than me could also see him. So anyway, eventually they ended up taking us upstairs. I had to walk down this hall where this fucking red dragon was underneath this medical dresser. So I walked past, and then I turned the corner because we're being led. They had already given me quite a few medication, like sleeping medications, while I was in the emergency room, and then they're taking us upstairs and basically forcing sleep, right? So for me, that medication, like, it didn't help, you know. It didn't force the sleep right away. So I was allowed to have a shower and go out for a cigarette also, and then go back into the room, and they had me under medical surveillance for like 24 hours. In that room there was a camera the entire time, and they were watching everything that I was doing and then recording everything that I was saying too. So it was very obvious to me that they were treating it as if it was some kind of drug thing that had happened, even though I said, I'm like, you know, we haven't been around anybody, definitely don't take drugs like that. So I'm not sure what happened there. Definitely didn't take the drugs, but they believe we did. So that's how that went down. We were released like a couple days after that, and then I went back home. I wasn't even in the province that I lived in. It was totally random. And I still have some of the things from that excursion, like those weird socks that they give you that have a smiley face on it, which is pretty fucked up, and like the toothpaste and a toothbrush and stuff. So I do have some things from that time. It was the most fucked up time of my life, and I've never experienced anything like that before. And then now everything after that, my entire life has changed. And it just seems to be falling into place. I'm not planning any of it. Before this happened to me, there was something pretty major that happened to me also back in 2012 that I didn't realize at the time, or even for a couple of years after. There was totally a precursor to this event, and that was that I went to heaven. I had an experience where I went to a place that's depicted as heaven, but I didn't die, and I didn't have a near-death experience or anything like that. What happened was my stepdad committed suicide, and the shock of that, it put me in shock. Because of the type of person that he was. It was just extremely shocking. We were really far away, wasn't expecting it, and then it just happened in the way that it did happen was the shocking part. Not that it did happen, but in the way that it happened was extremely shocking to my core, and it sent me into some kind of like shocked state. And I don't remember much from that entire week other than I went to heaven. And I'll make another video explaining all of the things that I experienced while I was there, but that was a major part of these things that keep happening to me. Major events happen to me in 7-year intervals for some reason, so that was the one that happened before that, but I will leave that for a different video.